Good evening to everybody. Welcome back to Social Work 400 after I think like 3 weeks hiatus. We're going to see each other tomorrow, albeit in a different configuration. That's not going to be live dialogue, live conversation. I find it ironic that we dedicated such bulk of our semester to discussion of technologies and technological impact on human relations, relationship between social work values and technologies, and finally about the personal electronic devices such as smartphones. And suddenly, paradigm shift, the world has tilted, and suddenly we are in a very different social, technological, cultural, and even natural environment. Things are not as they used to be. Some are for better, some are for worse. But our task at hand, you as students, as faculty, to make the best out of this, to complete what we started in terms of both the course content projects. Actually, remember 3 strands in this course we kept referring to, and that would be the writing intensive piece, content piece pertaining to the course content and the project. So we are at an experimental stage as well, and we are going to do our best also to go through this experiment. It's a very, I don't want to say painful, but it's a challenging transition. So we're all in the same boat, and collectively together we're going to make it to the end of the semester so that everybody gets a good grade and we complete our projects. You have received a letter, an email from CUNY, I believe, yesterday, with respect to something that CUNY refers to as recalibration period. Okay, so it doesn't affect this class that much because the recalibration period begins this Friday and ends on Wednesday. So we are conveniently holding our session today, and then we're going to have another session next week, Thursday. I meant we are holding a session tomorrow on Thursday, and next session is going to be on Thursday. So let me get back to the subject at hand. I'm going to use this feature here, share screen. But before I continue with my lecture, this is a lecture. It's going to run for about 45 minutes or so. Yeah, I should have the clock. It started at 6:45, so we're going to end at about 7:15. I'll do my best. So you'll be viewing this video as I'm going to put in my instructions on Blackboard that you will receive shortly. But please listen carefully. Please imagine that we are sitting together in class, and I am in front. And again, asking you not to be distracted, because this is do your best to comport to those professional rules of behavior as we discussed. Try to concentrate on this. Don't multitask. Don't watch television, listen to the music. Because I cannot enforce this, but consider this a lecture. Listen to this, please. I'm going to use this feature here called share screen. So you're going to see what's going on. You're still going to have me in the right top corner. Okay. Let's go here. So now in your screen, you should have the address that, the email that I sent you a few days back. And let me read it again. I hope you read it all of you should have read it. I trust you're well, a bit confused, somewhat frustrated, kind of worried, and so am I, and we carry on for the purpose of completing the semester successfully, but also we on a personal level have to be able to learn how to handle this and figure out what silver linings does this crisis have for us. So finding, exploring, and exploiting the silver lining in the interests of the social work profession for the sake of the better world, and perhaps for the sake of completing this project. I don't know. I have to rethink some ideas. We have to rethink some ideas, but still. So this is what I was asking you for tomorrow. Examine the first 38 slides of the file that we're going to go open up, and I'm going to go over some of those slides with you. There's not much text, so I'm hoping that slide file that you could find, of course, in the course material section. You already read, maybe you'll reread this first 38 slides. By tomorrow, I'm asking you to write a reflection paper, and a couple of students already sent it to me, using the concepts from slide 9, like dialectics, your favorite concept. Not all of the concepts, of course, have to be used. I don't know how many, 6 to 12, maybe, I don't know, but consider them. Look for the definitions, find out what those concepts are. So the paper should address these 3 themes in terms of the impact of the crisis on us, both in terms of trauma and strength perspectives. Again, listen carefully, please. Again, if you are not going to be done with the paper on Thursday, again, I appreciate those who did it, those who didn't do it. Listen to this video, of course, carefully listen, and then we're going to have a little bit more discussion tomorrow. So for the reflection paper, that is, by the way, reflection paper is replacing your midterm. This is your midterm. How long is the paper? I don't know, between 6 and 12 pages or so. You have to write about the impact of the crisis, and I'm, of course, talking about the coronavirus crisis, on the social work profession through the prism of social work values. We can run through those values, but we already talked about them at great lengths several times. Service, relations with others, the importance of relationships with others, dignity and worth of each person is number 3, social justice number 4, integrity number 5, and competence number 6. So how can you understand the impact of this crisis, or if you wish, the crisis itself, from the perspective of social work values? And in everything that you write for this paper, you should really consider both pluses and minuses in terms of values, right? For instance, someone could say that in terms of social justice, as one of the social work values, this coronavirus crisis may actually bring a more egalitarian society, more equal society, because everybody is shut up in their apartments. It kind of makes us more equal. Those who cannot afford to travel to theater in the evening, to the Caribbean on Saturday, to restaurants, they're now, on the same level of those who could do so, because they're not permitted to, and everybody is in the same boat in that sense. Or somebody else could say that social justice actually issues are playing out through this coronavirus in a negative way. That those who have resources will be able to ride this crisis for as long as it lasts economically. Those who do not have resources will suffer greatly. Why? Well, because, I don't know, a lot of people actually not even going to have that compensation from the government, whatever it's going to be. And plus, I don't know, where's that compensation coming from anyway? There's untold trillions of dollars coming out of thin air. And isn't it also coming out of our pocket eventually? I don't know. In any event, so that would be an example of how you would examine the impact of the crisis on social work profession, or if you wish, in the society in general. You don't have to limit yourself to just social work profession through the prism of social work practice. Number 2, B, impact of the crisis on your community in terms of community wellness. Community wellness, we have that slide, if you remember, for ecologies: natural ecology, social ecology, cultural ecology, and technological ecology. as it impacts individuals in the community, and that would be on the physical level, on the emotional level, on the intellectual level, on the spiritual level. And that relationship between the ecologies and impact on individuals is indeed the essence of the community wellness model. How does the crisis impact community wellness? How does the crisis impact the ecologies? How does the crisis impact the individuals as they, of course, are impacted by the ecologies? That would be your examination of community wellness. C, impact the crisis on your personal life in terms of your life philosophies, behavior, and emotions. Your personal life. How does the coronavirus impact you? I want to know. You want to know on your personal life. How did you rethought? How did you reanalyze? How did you reconceptualize your relationship with the world? What do you think about the world nowadays? How is your life philosophy, your personal philosophy was impacted? How are you seeing the world in a different way? How have you changed cognition-wise, thought-wise? That's, and then how did your behaviors change? Well, one thing is obvious. You are not as mobile as you used to be. Ruminate on that, meditate on that, think what it means in your life. Just, the lack of ability to travel, the lack of ability to go to work, the lack of ability to have direct socialization with your professors, with your peers. It's hugely important. And finally, emotions. How do you feel? How do you feel about the whole thing? So this is your midterm now. We'll talk about this more. Please pray those who did not write it yet and still hesitating and still struggling with this, prepare your questions for tomorrow. I asked you also to create the Zoom account. Well, I don't know whether you need it, but I'm sending you, after this, I'm going to send you the link to the meeting. So by tomorrow, that's number 4, the course video will be uploaded. So this is what I'm doing now, and I'm going to upload it. And the first session conducted with each group. That I'm not so sure about. I mean, I'm actually try to have this session with the entire class, but we'll probably have to break up into groups. Chapter 4 and 5 in the textbook, hopefully you read. I don't know how much time we're going to have to discuss that, but study the guide on chapter 5 that's in the course slide file. Consider the concepts from the chapter applicable to the crisis as well. We'll try to have a conversation on that. And what I have here is that ongoing, I gave you my telephone number again. You have my email address. Everybody should feel free to contact me through any means possible. I have yet to receive confirmation that you are connected via Blackboard, etc., from each student. Okay, so that's just kind of explaining the outline of the midterm. You could turn me off. You could put me on hold, on pause for a few minutes. Take it in, I don't know, have a glass of water with lemon. Pop that 1,000 milligram vitamin C, and we'll continue. So I'm continuing now with the with the 400 course update file. This picture is a little quaint. Yes, people are wearing masks, but hardly anybody is riding the trains. Let me read this. This is the address I sent to all of my students, and I will tailor it to this class somehow, but let's see what it works. So first of all, our course was interrupted by the coronavirus crisis. As we are returning to our studies, everything has changed. We're dealing with a very different education process. Different professional landscape. Social work profession is not going to be the same from now on, though I don't really have the looking glass to know what it's going to be like. and different world altogether. Not the looking glass. Actually, the metaphor is the crystal ball. Okay, I don't have the crystal ball. Yet the goals of this course of Social Work 400 remain the same. You know, we still need to graduate. We still need to learn the relevant conceptual framework. And we still have to understand on some level what community organizing is, plus, of course, writing intensive. As the projects that we started to work on, it's still going to be about the smart technology. Perhaps we'll need to adjust it. What is, you know, in terms of the title? I mean, so your research that you did for literature review, of course, is very useful, but perhaps the final product, now that you're not writing the midterm, your midterm is going to be this reflection, but the final product should maybe kind of broaden the scope of our investigation into smart technologies. We'll see. I think we're okay in terms of propaganda, in terms of the other aspects of smart technology. It's very much relevant now. But more on this later. In any case, below in this file, in this PDF file that's uploaded, of course, on your course documents on Blackboard, please see evolving framework of our relationship to the rest of the semester. I view this relationship, by the way, as always, as informative, enlightening, and empowering. The crisis is a threat to our health, community wellness, and the nature of the social work profession. It's a threat. It's a threat, no question about it. The crisis is also an opportunity as well to rethink, to reframe relationships with ourselves, that nano level, others, that would be the micro level, the social work profession, probably you could even consider as a meso level, and the world itself, which is the macro level, of course, the communities. These times call on your better angels: patience, inquisitiveness, meaning curiosity, wisdom, courage, extremely important, not to be petrified of the future and what it holds. Things will work out somehow. Optimism goes with courage. Humility, but also compassion. I'm not putting in empathy here for the sake of time, but compassion is hugely important. This is also the time to practice what we preach, the dialectic social work. Why? Because we live and operate now in the times of crisis and conflict, and I think I try to drill this in, that social workers, and first and foremost, who are experts on conflict and crisis, and that's exactly where we find ourselves nowadays. We shall conclude this semester by creating an outcome in the service of our profession and the community. Pretty picture of the virus that we should not be afraid of. We should be wary of the virus. We should take every precaution in the world, but we should be confident that we can fight it. First of all, let me quickly scroll down to the slide for community wellness, just to remind you. It's also the banner for this course, so it's nothing new to you. Here it is, right? Remember this. We have not really shied away. We did not shy away from the conceptual framework. We continue to deal with the subject matter, which is community organizing, through this through the conceptual framework of community wellness. And just to remind you again, the whole model pertains to the community wellness of the community, being this multi-dimensional relationship between ecologies, the environments, and their impact on human condition. Community wellness equals the relationship between ecologies and human condition. There are 4 ecologies that we identified: the physical, or otherwise known as natural ecology, social ecology, ecology of relationships with others and other institutions and so forth. Cultural ecology we talked about, which of course includes history, religion, art, if you wish, and so forth. And technological ecology, which is of course the crux of the matter in this course, and its attention to personal electronic devices. And of course, it's relevant to this wholesale shift that we're experiencing from living in the world, communing with each other's, being in close proximity of other humans, which is so critically important to being a human, to this much more virtualized, remember that word virtual, virtualized relationships, where the proximity is imaginary. I mean, if I'm staring at the screen and the screen is a few inches from me and I see your face on the screen, you're very far away. The world has become more remote. Humans became more remote and we became much more isolated. So this world, of course, is very relevant to technological ecology. And these four ecologies impact these yellow vectors, these yellow arrows, which is impact on individuals, impact on humans, on human behaviors, if you wish. And this is the realm of physical health, impact of these ecologies on physical health and spiritual health and emotional health and intellectual health. And that's what we're concerning ourselves with. This notion of community wellness, which spells the relationship between ecologies and human impacts. How does this operate in the environment of this coronavirus crisis? What has changed? How does this work? This is what we have to understand. We cannot continue, of course, doing things as we did before. Let me scroll back to the top. How much longer? About 10 minutes. So I'll try to run through this as fast as I can, and for as much as I can. So remember, community wellness, community wellness. Conversational and perhaps in relevance to your paper that you're writing, reflection paper that's replacing the midterm. Remember the B was about community wellness. So again, in terms of community wellness, consider the full spectrum of ecologies, natural, social, cultural, and technological, as sources of both stress and strength, challenge and opportunity, expression perhaps of toxicity, which is, and trauma on the one hand, on the other hand, strength-based perspective. Community wellness under the impact of the coronavirus in terms of the ecologies as they become sources of both stress and strength. We also have this responsibility to research, analyze, publish, and promulgate the data that would help communities in dealing with this crisis through the strength perspective. I'm putting this out, don't consider this direct instruction. I want us to talk this through. I want us to think this through. If these are the responsibilities of social workers towards the notion of community wellness in the times of crisis, I want us to think it through, to talk about this, but at the same time also to keep in mind how does this inform our project, for example. So again, further, impact of the crisis on community wellness. One, we're considering the full spectrum of ecologies, 4 of them as sources of both strength and stress in a time of crisis. 2, we also, in terms of our attention to community wellness in times of crisis, we also take responsibility to research, analyze, publish, and promulgate the data that will help communities in dealing with this crisis through this strength perspective. So to me, this number 2 kind of encapsulates our project. In terms of coronavirus crisis and community wellness. Number 3, consider the impact of the crisis on your community. Of course, this is an item. in your assignment as well. But again, I want to speak broadly here. And the fourth responsibility of social workers in terms of community wellness in the time of coronavirus crisis is to organize community members through raising awareness and disseminating knowledge toward empowerment and confidence. And that's our project. That's our task with respect to this course. You know, somehow that product that we produce at the end of the semester, and we'll decide what it is. Whether it's a PDF file or a video, we'll see. Of course, we're not going to have a presentation. But that particular document that we produce should benefit the community, to help the community in terms of raising awareness and disseminating knowledge toward empowerment and confidence. This is a picture of a cloud, and the idea here is silver lining. Silver lining. I think that's what we as social workers have to, and as community organizers as well, have to consider in terms of this crisis more than anything else. We can complain, we could suffer, some of us certainly will to an extent, but we have to be able to find the silver lining in this whole situation. What is social work responsibility in terms of personal health? As in time of coronavirus crisis, again, as personal health, as in your personal health and as personal health of your loved ones, hated ones, community in general, clients, etc. Personal health, 4 items. Practice safe living. Avoid toxic exposures through food or anything else. Toxic exposures could also be emotional. Avoid that. Stress is something that you cannot afford right now. Consume healthy nutrition as much as you can. I keep saying that. Find organic, buy organic. Don't eat fried food. Don't eat super processed food. You know, now it's more important than ever. Your immunity is your key to riding this crisis. And supplement your diet for increased immunity. Doctors now all of a sudden are recommending vitamin C in large doses, from 3 to 5 grams, 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C should be consumed daily. Try to find quality vitamin C. If anybody, you know, right, okay. Number 2, practice safe hygiene. Of course, you know about washing hands with soap, avoiding exposure to other bodily fluids like sneezing. Access fresh air, despite the fact that they're trying to keep us indoors. Actually, the air has gotten much fresher, that's for sure, when so few cars are driving. Practice safe mind. Number 3, and that's, again, responsibility of social workers in terms of personal health to themselves and others in times of crisis. Gather relevant information from credible sources about the crisis, about the virus, about the propaganda that surrounds the virus, about the panic, about the fear. Analyze information and employ critical thinking. Employ critical thinking. We talked about this before. Cannot simply take things for granted from the media. And we shall grow through this crisis. We will not be traumatized. And it's a pledge that all of us, I think, should take. 4, practice safe professional development. Consider the implication of the crisis on your practice and career in the social work field. Every crisis, as we know that Chinese character, has danger in it and opportunity. We are going to protect ourselves from danger, and we're going to exploit the opportunity that's involved. This is an interesting poster from from the Spanish flu epidemic about 100 years ago. Hold the epidemic, stop spitting, everybody. Well, we did stop. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about. This is that slide 9. I think I said 8, but it's 9. With the conceptual framework. I broke the conceptual framework down into 6 categories, each headed with the key concept: paradigm, toxicity, wellness, social control, medical model. A lot of the, and category X, which I don't have yet, maybe it will emerge. A lot of these concepts we talked about. Please examine. Please, we could talk about them more. So that's for you to examine the slide, get definitions, not just definitions. You should really get an understanding. Some of this we'll discuss in class tomorrow, and so help us God, because it's going to be difficult. But tomorrow we experiment. Write to me regardless of our collective discussions, independently of those. I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to transition out. We had about 30 minutes of this dialogue. Well, not dialogue, this was a monologue. And I'm going to send it to you shortly. So see you tomorrow, and God bless.